Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Here's a look at the top stories tonight. A dancer remains in intensive care as the government vows to find out who was responsible for the Colisuem accident. John Lee visits Sham Shui Po to hear the views of the grassroots. And the rugby sevens will finally be back in November. The government has pledged to determine within weeks the party responsible for the accident at the Hong Kong Colisuem during a concert by a popular boy band. 2 dancers were injured after being hit by a falling giant screen, while the 8 remaining shows by Mirror were cancelled. Isaac Lee reports.
Hong Kongers are still in shock after a large screen collapsed during a concert of boy band Mirror at the Hong Kong Colisuem on Thursday night, injuring 2 dancers. Outraged fans are demanding to know who should show the responsibility. 3 subcontractors in charge of the stage design issued statements. In Technical Productions said it provided the screens, but was not responsible for hanging them. The other 2 subcontractors also said they didn't place the screens. The main contractor, Engineering Impact, has remained silent. Culture Chief Kevin Yeung said it will take the government a few weeks to get to the bottom of the matter. He dismissed worries that other concerts scheduled in August at the Colisuem will be cancelled, saying the Leisure and Cultural Services Department, the LCSD, will take charge.
LCSD will contact this venue hirer and discuss with them what their performances will be and what sort of special arrangement in terms of the stage and other facilities that they will be arranging. And then we will discuss with them on the safeties of these facilities or stage arrangements and make sure that it's okay to operate.
Dancer Mo Lee, who suffered a spinal fracture, remains in intensive care after surgery at Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Sources say he is still unable to move. The other injured dancer was discharged after treatments. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
A hiker died after being struck by lightning in Sha Tin this morning. The 23-year-old man lost consciousness when he was hit while trekking on Loi Po Shan at around 9:45 in the morning. The thunderstorm warning was in force at the time. His companion alerted police, and a government flying service helicopter airlifted him to Pamela Yud Nethersol Eastern Hospital, where he was certified dead. 13 hikers have died so far this year. The emergency services received more than 500 calls for help. Chief Executive John Lee has visited Sham Shui Po as he began collecting views for the public ahead of his policy address. He visited a tenement building to see for himself the living conditions in subdivided flats. Chloe Feng reports.
3 months ago, John Lee visited subdivided flats when he was bidding for the city's top job. This morning, as chief executive, he visited Sham Shui Po to collect grassroots views for his maiden policy address in October. Accompanied by Chief Secretary Eric Chan, Lee visited a tenement building on Lai Chi Kok Road, where he inspected an antibacterial door handle at the gate. They then popped into a subdivided flat upstairs. Lee was told that subsidies enabled the tenant's son to learn to play the violin, but because there wasn't enough money, the boy could not sit for professional exams. The chief executive said a newly set up working group is tackling intergenerational poverty. The group has rolled out a scheme to help 2,000 students in similar conditions and will work on expanding it. Lee later told shopkeepers that he will work hard to improve the catering sector. As he was about to leave, a woman stopped him and asked for his help, saying she was cheated in property investments in the Greater Bay Area. Talking to reporters, the chief executive said his government will speed up and boost housing supply. The 2-hour tour included a visit to a center for the elderly. Li plans to hold 30 more sessions to collect opinions from various sectors. Colisuem, HKIBC.
2 men, one of them an American, have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter following the discovery of a body in a hotel room in Central. The case came to light when the American told staff of the Hotel Madeira Hollywood at 1 a.m. that a man had fainted in his room. On investigation, the body of a 40-year-old man was found in a bathroom and a suspect was arrested. The second suspect, aged 44, was detained in Aberdeen this afternoon. The pair are being held for investigation. Dozens of students have to leave their dormitory after a COVID cluster was detected at the C school. This came as new infections remained above 4,000 for the 10th day in a row. Chloe Feng reports.
2 schools will have to suspend some classes for 1 week after COVID was detected. One is the Hong Kong C school in Stanley Bay, where 3 new cases are believed to be linked to 2 previous infections. The other 46 students in the school will have to leave their dormitory. The second school is the Harbour Mission Church Yan Ai Kindergarten in Up Lake Chau, where 3 infections were identified. The city today registered a total of 4,683 new infections, including 193 imported cases. Gladys Kwan of the hospital authority said another 187 COVID patients were admitted to hospital, taking the number of admissions to 1,456. 9 patients, including a 22-month-old toddler, are in intensive care. 17 others are in critical condition. 4 more COVID-related deaths were recorded, including that of a 92-year-old unvaccinated man who died earlier but was found with the virus yesterday. Health authorities again appealed to people to get vaccinated as soon as possible. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
A government pandemic advisor says there's no need to tighten social distancing. David Hui also believes it's possible to shorten hotel quarantine for arrivals. Maisie Mok reports.
Currently, arrivals from overseas have to spend 7 days in hotel quarantine. But government pandemic advisor David Hui believes that the duration can be shortened to 4 or 5 days, followed by a period of home isolation.
But all the travelers before departure have already had a negative PCR, and on arrival they also should have a negative PCR, right? So for the period that they stay at home, as long as they wear the electronic bracelets to make sure they don't go outside, I think the risk to Hong Kong is actually quite low.
Hui expects the daily COVID caseload to keep rising, but says there's no need to tighten social distancing measures.
We are mainly seeing mild cases. The number of severe and critical cases is actually quite low compared to March this year.
Hui is a member of a scientific committee which is set to discuss allowing children under the age of 3 to be vaccinated. He said one concern is whether vaccine manufacturers can provide smaller doses that are suitable for toddlers. At the moment, Hong Kong dilutes COVID vaccines to make them suitable for children. Maisie Mok, HKIBC.
2 vehicles were hit in Mong Kok as a driver in another car tried to evade a police search. The incident happened at around 4 p.m. when the police stopped a car on Shanghai Street. But the driver fled in his car, ramming into a taxi and another car on Nathan Road. He got off his vehicle and ran, but was blocked by the driver, whose car he had hit. Police then overpowered the suspect, who allegedly threw out a few packs of white powders believed to be drugs. Overseas, Pope Francis says he may have to consider stepping down if his health worsens. The Roman Catholic leader told reporters accompanying him on his flight home from Canada that he intends to continue his duties. But he said his strained leg ligaments are causing trouble. In Canada, the 85-year-old pontiff apologized to Indigenous communities for the suffering and deaths of children in Christian schools. Francis said efforts to forcefully assimilate Indigenous children amounted to cultural genocide. Senior U.S. politician Nancy Pelosi is keeping the world guessing on whether she will visit Taiwan. China earlier warned that it will take strong measures if she goes to the island.
I don't ever talk about my travel because, as some of you know, it's a security issue. It's a security issue for every member of Congress traveling, especially abroad. But for the Speaker, it is an additional security issue, and for those traveling with me.
Taiwan is the most contentious issue between China and the United States, with President Xi Jinping warning his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden not to play with fire. The U.S. military itself isn't enthusiastic about a visit to Taiwan by Pelosi, saying it's not a good idea. Her aides say her Asian tour will include Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and Malaysia. Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of a deadly attack on a camp holding Ukrainian prisoners of war. At least 53 Ukrainians were killed and 70 wounded when rockets landed on a prison camp located in a region controlled by Russian-backed separatists. Moscow said Ukraine launched U.S.-supplied missiles to destroy the facility in an attempt to discourage its soldiers from surrendering. Ukraine, in turn, accused Moscow of carrying out the shelling to hide evidence that the prisoners were tortured and executed. On to the weather now. Tomorrow will be very hot again with 1 or 2 showers and isolated thunderstorms. Temperatures will range between 28 and 33 degrees. The hot spell will continue in the next few days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Saturday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Good night.